Hey, there, everybody. I figured it'd been a while since I'd been in my game room here, getting in front of you. So I got my coffee. I got my geek sweatshirt ready to talk about history. I got a hat on because my hair's a mess. Talk about hair's a mess. Look up pictures of Andrew Jackson. Terrible haircuts. Take that, Andrew Jackson. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Jacksonian Democracy today. Um, Real briefly, hopefully. My attempt at being brief. And this will kind of I guess step on the toes a little bit of the other lessons, just because it's all include Jacksonian democracy is a big umbrella term that's used for all this stuff. So the first thing that is kind of interesting to think about, and I want you to think about, is was Andrew Jackson a common man? All right, in 1820s, 1830s, common man, common white men, farmers in the West and the South especially, but also in the North too. Um, how common was Andrew Jackson? As you learn more about him, maybe you'll see that he is, maybe you'll see that he isn't. He definitely appeals to the common man by that definition that I just used, regardless of whether he is. So we're seeing a change in America. One of the articles I think I even gave you today says it's as big a change as the Second American Revolution. I don't know if I really believe that, but it's a big change in any case, and that is expanding suffrage. Suffrage is the right to vote. So Andrew Jackson gets this thing, Jacksonian Democracy, named after him, and he's both a cause and an effect of it, which is kind of wild. The changes were going on before he was ever president. He wouldn't have been president without the changes. He accelerates some of the changes and does some things that common men, right? I hate that term doesn't really even have to mean anything, but that most white farmers is essentially what that means, would want to have done. And so Andrew Jackson is a pretty big deal with that. He breaks the mold of a president. Before that, we have 6 presidents. 4 are from Virginia, wealthy planters from families that have been in Virginia forever. Were big even when Virginia was a colony, right? And 2 Adamses, a father and a son. I mean, it doesn't really get. I mean, you can have your opinions on the corrupt bargain that you learned about yesterday, but it doesn't look good for democracy when you got a father than a son, especially when you're just starting out and you're really trying to say, we're not like Europe, you guys, we're not like that at all, but we're going to elect a father and a son. All these presidents are either from Virginia or Massachusetts. So only 2 states have had presidents by 1828. Not looking too democratic, right? So a big part of that is that all the states were limiting who could vote. Okay, you had to have property requirements, you had to pay certain taxes, so you had to have a certain level of wealth in order to vote. Because of that, you're going to change the type of candidates you get. And in a lot of these elections, it's considered really poor form to even try and go out and run a campaign to beg for votes, which is weird, especially in the modern context, right? So you have these, what I call aristocratic, I'm not the only one who calls them that, but what people call aristocratic, right? Pinkies up. You have these fancy guys who are from wealth, born into political and economic privilege, who are running the country. That they're kind of seen as an elite. Andrew Jackson is not necessarily seen as a part of that. Now, I think it's a fun question to say if you learn about Andrew Jackson's life. He definitely started out as a common man, common white farmer. But by the time he was president, was he really that common? I mean, you're talking about someone who had become a general, had led thousands of people in battle, had a big plantation in Tennessee. Not sure if he's too common by the time he's president, but people definitely identified with him in that way. So the big reason he can even get elected is more people are being allowed to vote. States are getting rid of their property requirements. That's called expanded suffrage. And what is he selling that they like? Well, he's selling his personality first. This is this rough and tumble guy. He will murder you in a duel if you disrespect him. People love that. He is a military hero, so people just assume he can run the country because he's good at winning battles and invading Florida on his own because he wants to, I guess. He's selling things like Indian removal and westward expansion, right? We're going to make sure that there's enough land for white men to farm. And remember, now that we're expanding suffrage, all white men are allowed to vote, including the poor ones. We might want to own some land out west, right? But we got to move the Native Americans off their land. We have to dispossess them of their land in order to make that happen, according to Andrew Jackson. Okay, we'll learn about the spoil system. that'll get touched on later, so I'm not going to touch on it now. That's a big part. He was pretty open about it. Strict constructionism is a thread you can draw from Jeffersonian Republicans to what we now call, the Democratic Party is going to form under Andrew Jackson. And that just means not doing things beyond the scope of the Constitution. That's something that most common white folks are going to really appreciate and like at this time. So that's a popular platform. Laissez-faire, which we talked about with Jefferson too. Let the businesses do what they want. Let the people do what they want. The government's job is not to come in and build big roads and bridges and things. Ugh. Just figure it out, man. Not our problem, right? And in opposition to banking, that is super popular at the time. And it's definitely not going to trigger some kind of economic panic or collapse later on once Jackson's not president, so he doesn't get blamed for it. Okay, so anyway, he's going to get elected in 1828, and it's partially because of the expanded democracy, and he's going to bring in these policies that are supposedly good for the common man, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I'm not even going to say one thing one way or the other, but they're viewed that way, right? So you have this old-style aristocracy that the first 6 presidents represent, and now you got the new thing, the common man, the Andrew Jackson. You can just, if you want to go into the White House, all you got to do is knock. Come on in, talk to the president. That's kind of wild. So that's Andrew Jackson for you. You'll learn a lot more about him today, and I hope you enjoy your lesson. Have a great day.